Camera. Good morning. Hello. Good morning. Very good. Okay. Can you hear me? Hello. Very good. Shall we begin? Now, up to the last class, we have discussed about morphology. Again, from the beginning, related to morphology, since you have seen several names here and there, continuously try to recall. Don't leave it. Okay? In this week also, while I was giving the content, how did I make you to remember? Follow in that way. Don't try to make them by-hearted blindly. If you blindly by heart, definitely you are going to forget. That's why we will go with the morphology in a little bit of gap. After that, we will start another lesson that is called anatomy of flowering plants. Anatomy of flowering plants. Flowering plants. Anatomy of flowering plants. Again, I wanted to recall you with one statement. Whenever we talk about flowering plants, you just recall we are strictly talking about angiosperms. We do not discuss anything related to gymnosperms and the plants before them. Okay, strictly. Then come to the statement. Recall in the beginning, we have discussed about a concept related to Catherine Esu. Do you remember? She was dominated in the field of morphology and anatomy even in the age of 99, something like that we have discussed about her. While the discussion, we mentioned she wrote a book called Anatomy of Seed Plants. Anatomy of Seed Plants. That book has been decided as, okay, Webster's of Plant Biology or Plant Anatomy. That means whatever the content that you wanted to learn related to gymnosperms and angiosperms, be careful. Catherine Esu book was not anatomy of flowering plants. It was anatomy of seed plants. So that when we talk about anatomy of flowering plants, here some of the content what Catherine Esu mentioned, that also we will discuss, and some fundamental concepts of anatomical feature. Is it okay? So I wanted to make sure that Catherine Esu written the book that is so called Webster's of Plant Anatomy. That book is called Anatomy of Seed Plants. Okay, then come back to our story related to anatomy. Tell me, what is anatomy? Wow, what a basic question. Anatomy, study of internal structural organizations of structural organization of plants. This is called anatomy. Obviously, we have plant anatomy, animal anatomy, But here when we talk about plant anatomy especially, we have to discuss about one thing. Plant anatomy, animal anatomy, totally different. Because in case of animal anatomy, there is a coordination with animal physiology, because each organ has various functions in our body. For example, let us consider we wanted to study about heart, as we consider it the major one. So that when I study about heart anatomy, heart has these chambers, that chambers, these blood vessels. In addition to that, we have to attach some concepts related to physiology. How heart work, what are the hormones released by the heart, and what are the hormones working on heart. Be careful, both sides it will work out. There are some hormones released by the heart, and also there are some hormones work on the heart. Altogether, if you wanted to understand that particular anatomical feature, we need to have a lot of discussion related to physiology. But that is not the case in case of plants, because plant has organs which are especially working in an independent manner. Let us talk about one statement. When we talk about plant morphology, we have two varieties of morphologies. One variety, reproductive morphology, reproductive morphology. Another one is vegetative morphology, vegetative morphology. When it comes to vegetative organs, what are the organs we list out? Root, stem, leaves. These are the vegetative organs. And what about reproductive organs? Flower, fruit, seed. These are the parts we call as reproductive organs. Make sure that during anatomy, we don't discuss anatomy of flower, anatomy of fruit, anatomy of seed. We may come across there are some type of tissues that are present in the particular reproductive organs, but we don't discuss about the anatomical features of them. Majorly we discuss about vegetative anatomy, root structure, stem structure, leaf. In this, how these tissues are made up of, what are the parts that tissue possess, and how these tissues work together in order to form that particular organ. These are the things we are going to discuss in the name of anatomy. Remember, when we talk about anatomy, it's not that in the entire plant kingdom, all the plants are possessing same type of anatomy. For example, Thallophyta, Bryophyta do not have vascular tissues. They have only primary tissues, and also the primary tissues majorly made up of parenchyma. They don't have strong mechanical tissues. They have their own problems. That's why we consider them as lower categories of plants. When it comes to pteridophytes, there has been development of xylem and phloem. Even though they have xylem and phloem, still they are considered as lower groups of plants because they have their own limitation to survive. Then come to gymnosperms. Gymnosperms are almost similar to dicots of angiosperms, but still they are considered as lower group of plant. But when we talk about flowering plants, over there we have two categories: dicot, monocot. Dicot monocots anatomically different. Anatomically different. Okay, well done. What do you mean by anatomically different? If you take a dicot stem, it may be structurally variated internally. I am talking about internal structural variation is there in between dicot root, dicot leaf, dicot stem, monocot stem. They all are having their own variations. Why these variations? Variations are nothing but either morphologically or anatomically. Variations are the reasons to develop Adaptations. What I mean to say exactly, whenever a plant trying to adapt new environment, not only it develops some kind of external morphological changes, it even develops some internal features that make them to survive in a particular environment efficiently. Are you catching the idea? That's why internal structures are going to be varies depending upon adaptation. What I mean to say exactly, let me take, there is a dicot. One dicot growing in desertified environment, another dicot is growing in an aquatic environment. Do you believe both the dicots are going to having same kind of anatomical features? Maybe their origin during the evolution same, but they adapted to two different types of environmental conditions. Based on the environmental conditions, their internal morphology and internal structural organization is also going to change. So, final conclusion, whenever we study about internal structure and organizations of plant, they are varying from plant group to plant group, and they are also varying according to the nature of adaptations or according to the environment that they have been adapted. So, anatomy of organ, the anatomy of an organ varies depending on environmental adaptations. Environmental adaptations. Keep it in mind. Even though we say this is an example of dicot root, this is an example of dicot stem, like that we exemplify this is an organization of dicot stem, monocot stem, etc. But there are still some kind of internal variations are there in the same group of plants also. This is an introduction. Then come to the concept of why do we need to study anatomy. If you study anatomy, we will understand the growth patterns of plant. Okay, how do exactly growth is happening and what are the changes are happening during the specific period of a growth of a plant. What I mean to say there, think about this. There is a vegetative growth. Before beginning of a flowering, a plant completes vegetative growth. During the vegetative growth, a plant may show some kind of changes. These changes may not be sufficient when the plant for reproduction. At the time, there are some changes will happen. Like this, during the growth and development of a plant, different types of anatomical changes are going to happen. Now, I wanted to recall some kind of content that we have studied in the name of plant growth and development. Let me say, when we study about plant growth and development, we have mentioned some statements like this. Plant growth is localized. Plant growth is localized. What do you mean by plant growth is localized? Remember, growth in plant is confined to specific locations. For example, if stem wants to grow, it grow at its tip, that is apical region of stem. Root wants to grow, it grow at its tip. Growth is localized. Very important. Plant growth is always localized. And also this mechanism of localized growth we can clearly understand by comparing with animals. Think about this. There is a kind of damage to a plant organ. For example, someone has plucked a branch. That branch has fallen. The plant, without disturbing to any other organs, the same branch it can grow once again. Only branch is growing. Other parts are not showing any kind of growth. Just that branch can able to grow. This is definitely happening only in plants. Let me talk about analogy with related to animals. See, somebody has plucked this hand has fallen. Is it possible in my body without growing any other organ, only growth of this one? It's not possible at all, because in animals growth is systemic. What do you mean by systemic? If you wanted to grow the body parts, you can grow all the body parts together. It is not possible to grow any body part individually. Let me take another part, another analogy. Think about this. Whenever our body started to mature, you know that when we were born, we were in between 3 to 4 kgs. This was our weight. Right now, what is our weight? We know. Now, this weight what we gain, is it possible to again reach to the 3 kg? Of course possible. When we die, the ash what will come from our body, that may be approximately 3 kgs. Apart from that, it is not possible, because growth in living organism is irreversible. Our growth is always irreversible. The word irreversible growth would be applicable to both plants as well as animals. But come to our body. While we are growing, we didn't grow with independent organs. What I mean to say, first 1 year upper body started to grow, lower body was silent. After 1 year lower body started to grow, and then remaining body parts were silent. After 3 years this hand started to enlarge, and after 5 years the leg started to enlarge. This is not happened. All body parts of our organs, I mean all of our body parts have grown simultaneously. This kind of growth is called systemic growth. We don't have localized growth, we have only systemic growth. Imagine a situation another way. I have taken a plant over there. In a plant, each organ has its own mechanism of individual growth. See, I have cut the apical tip, lateral branches started to grow, and I wanted to make any one particular organ of the plant to grow. It is possible, because plant growth is localized. Plant growth is what? Localized. Why plant growth is localized? Because growing regions are restricted to only certain parts. I will explain this concept elaboratedly when we talk about meristem, but keep it in mind. Plant growth is localized, it's not systemic. Is it okay? Next one. Plant growth is open. Plant growth is open. We have studied these words already in plant growth and development. Anyhow, let me continue. Plant growth is open. What do you mean by plant growth is open? See, there are two varieties of growth: open growth, closed growth. What does it mean by closed one? Once an organism has developed organs perfectly, these organs never grow once again. This is called closed growth. Think about this. If our growth is open, a drinker never feel that their liver is damaged. Why? Because if the liver got damaged, we can develop another liver if our growth is open. The same parameter. We have two kidneys, both are damaged. Then after 6 months we will develop another new kidneys. Not possible, because our growth is closed. Catch this idea in case of a plant. Imagine we have separated some of the roots and few roots were left. You check in the plant, if you keep it in the proper conditions, after 1 month that plant can develop all the roots once again, because its growth is open. The meaning of the saying of open form of growth means lifelong new organs can able to be formed in the plant body. I'm not saying this is possible for every plant, but generally lifelong new organs are going to be formed. Think about this. A leaf has fallen from the plant, Plant will not cry for the leaf because it can develop another leaf. Imagine a situation, a finger has fallen from your hand. You have to cry for that because there is no another chance to new finger to grow. Why? Our growth is closed. Once you developed all the organs, the development is only one time. Our growth is closed, but plant growth is open. Keep it in mind. Next one. In the plant body, growth is indeterminate. Generally, this word. Plant growth is indeterminate. Plant growth is indeterminate. Mostly plant growth is indeterminate, but some cases plant does possess determinate growth. Plant do process determinate growth. That means I am saying plant growth may be determinate or indeterminate. What does it mean by this? Plants can grow lifelong. Be careful. There is no concept of cessation of growth. Up to this time, plant grow. After that, plant does not grow. That concept we do not apply with respect to plant growth. But that's not the case in our body. Do we grow lifelong? We grow up to certain age. After that, we stop growing. Now, I wanted to say some statement regarding to this. This is a general consideration, not universal application of plants and animals. Clear? There are some animals can grow lifelong. There are some crocodile varieties are there. Until they die, if they are having food sufficiently, they constantly grow. Some type of reptiles. Even some snakes also grow like that. But general consideration, in animals, growth is determinate. In plants, growth is indeterminate. Now, why I am discussing all these terms? Plant growth is localized, plant growth is open, plant growth is indeterminate, etc. etc. The reason is all these physiological properties of plant because of their anatomical features. There are some tissues and some organs present in the plant body which are making the plant to grow localized. There are some tissues and organs present in the plant body which make them to grow openly lifelong. And there are organs which make the plant to grow indeterminately. That's why you wanted to understand the particular kind of phenomena of life stages in the plant. First of all, you have to know what are the anatomical features present in the plant body. Clear? That's why we are going to study something that is called anatomy. Next one. Let me go with some fundamental features regarding to organization. See, whenever we talk about body organization, we have some things like in every living organism, the fundamental structure of living body is cell. Of course, cell must be present. Cells develop in the form of tissues, tissues develop into organs, organs develop into organ system, and finally there is a development of organism. Now observe, when we talk about living beings, this is the way the organizations are going to develop. But when it comes to plants have cells, they have tissues, they have organs, but they don't have organ system. No organ system in the organisms called plant. What do you mean by they don't have organ systems? Imagine, I'm taking this analogy. The kidneys have been damaged. Kidneys only damaged. Remaining all organs are fresh and beautiful and working happily. Do you believe that this body would be able to survive continuously? Obviously not. Why? The kidneys are a part of system. They are interconnected. If kidneys fail, blood pressure imbalance. If blood pressure imbalance, heart beatings will be changed, then automatically remaining organs would be having difficulty to get oxygen. Ultimately we are going to die. There are other ways. There is a requirement of dialysis, etc., etc. We know such kind of things. That's not our discussion. But remember this: no organ in an animal body can able to work independently. But that's not the case in case of plant. In the plant, every organ can able to work independently. What do you mean by this? You have plucked all the leaves. You left only stem. After some time, you can observe the stem can able to produce leaves and growing happily. Next one. You have cut off root system and leaf system from the stem. And after some time, you can identify the stem started to produce root, leaves, and all the other parts and started to grow happily. This is possible because organ system is absent in the plant body. Organs are not exactly interlinked with one another. I'm not saying they are not connected at all. They are connected. Root connected to stem, stem connected to leaf, flowers, fruits. Of course, all organs are interconnected, but they are not in the part of system because they are not working together in an dependable manner. They all work together, but they can work when there is a necessity to work independently. That's why there is no concept called organ system in the plant body, but they have cells, tissues, organs. In our criteria of our anatomy, we will start with tissues and we will end with organs. Why we are not discussing about cell? Cell separate story. Cells, various cells, plant cells, what are the parts and how they are survive. This is a different mechanism. Now here we study about what are the tissues present in the plant body and how these tissues are developing into organs. Anyhow, there is no organ system in the plant body, so there is no need to discuss how these organs are organized together. Clear? Then come back to the story. In our plant anatomy, first one, a concept is there, tissue. What is tissue? Come on. Tissue. Very good. In Greek, tissue is called enkyma. 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 Enkyma means collection of cells. That is the word definition. Collection of cells. Now I wanted to say one thing. If you wanted to learn these biological terms and especially animal physiology and plant physiology over there is a concept is there, etymology. Etymology. Not entomology, etymology. Etymology means origin of English words. You know, English has been developed through several variety of languages. If there is a new word present in one language, English never hesitate to own it. You know, there are some words in recent times also English language has adopted. In this case, etymology means study of origin of English words is called etymology. Now, whenever you study a new word in English, careful, try to learn its etymology. If you learn its etymology, then automatically in the next time, that word, either in the form of a prefix or suffix, it has come to you, you will easily understand what they wanted to convey with that word. For example, you know, andro means male, gyno, female. Are you getting the idea? These are the words that are taken from Latin and Greek languages and has use and they have used in English language. So Whenever you find an English word which is new for you, first try to learn its etymology. If you learn the etymology, automatically next time you can easily use that word. Then again, if you ever search some content in Google, especially in Wikipedia, you will get first their etymology. Are you getting the idea? So have a habit of understanding the word origin. Automatically, what exactly that word refers to, you can understand. Then come back to the statement tissue. Tell me, according to our definition, what is a tissue? Tissue, a group of cells, a group of cells with common origin, common origin, common origin and common function, common function. Careful, if I wanted to say a group of cells as a tissue, first criteria I have to follow, whatever the cells, it may be one type of cells, two types of cells, several types of cells present in that area. First criteria I have to mention, all the cells that are present in that group must be originated from common mother cell. One mother cell must give all the tissues which are present in that, all the cells which are present in the tissue. Then only I will call that is a tissue. Think about this. I have collected several cells from different organs and I have placed at one area. I am calling it as a tissue. That would be a wrong definition. They may be having structural variations, but all must be coming from common mother cell. If you collect some cells which are coming from the common mother cell and collectively doing some work, then only we will call them as tissue. So, collection of cells which are having common origin and collectively they are performing common function. I didn't say collection of cells with common structure is called tissue. No, that's not the thing. Collection of cells, they must be having common origin and they collectively should perform common function. Then only I will call them as tissue. It's not necessary in a tissue all the cells must be having same type of structure, but it is necessary all those different cells must be coming from common mother cell and collectively they have to conduct same function. That is what is called tissue. Well done. Come to the statement. When we are talking about tissues, different organs are having different types of tissues. First, I am talking about types of tissues, types of tissues based on the criteria for types of tissues based on capability to divide or capacity to divide, whether the cell can able to divide or not. That is the criteria here for me to decide the type of tissues based on capacity to divide. Is it okay? Now over there, if you consider whether a tissue is able to divide or not, first one, based on capacity to divide, some cells are called meristematic cells. Some cells are called meristematic cells. Some cells are called permanent. Permanent. As we know, meristematic cells are capable to divide. Capable to divide. They can divide. Then what about permanent cells? Cannot divide. They cannot. Now, imagine these two. What is the permanent cells, meristematic cells? Look at this. Meristematic cells are responsible for increase number of cells that are present in the plant body. We want more number of cells in a plant body. We need meristematic cells because they can only divide, they can only add more number of cells to plant body. But what about permanent cells? Permanent cells majorly, permanent cells meant for majorly conducting various functions of the plant body. What do you mean by functions? A plant need to prepare its food by photosynthesis. If necessary, that food has to be stored, and again plant has to perform various physiological activities like respiration, excretion, that is excretion I mean to say secretion, and also performing reproduction, etc., etc. For that different types of tissues are required. All those tissues are nothing but our permanent. Imagine, majorly, if I am talking about meristematic cells are undifferentiated. 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 What do you mean by undifferentiated? They do not have any kind of modifications. They have the primary structure. With that primary structure, they can do only one thing, that is divide. They cannot do any kind of activity. I will show you there is an event that makes them meristematic to permanent. I will show you the sequence, but come to permanent. Permanent cells are called differentiated. Differentiated. These cells are differentiated. What do you mean by differentiated? They have become functional. Meristematic cells, these are the cells, the meristematic cells. They are, be careful, non-functional. Meristematic cells are non-functional. They don't have any function. Meristematic cells are non-functional. Permanent cells are functional. They can do function. What does it mean by this? Imagine, you may be getting doubt. You said meristematic cells are able to divide. Does the division, is it a function? No. When we talk about function, normal physiological functions like preparation of food, storage of food, mechanical support, reproduction, transportation, and also survival of normal life activities, whatever the functions required, that is called functional. But with the help of meristematic cells or meristematic tissue, you cannot get any such kind of life activity. They divide, add new cells. You want new cell, they can give. But you want a functional cell which can perform photosynthesis, storage of the food, and transportation of water and minerals and food. Such kind of things would not be given by meristematic cells. Who can give such kind of activities? Permanent cells. But one kind of thing, all the permanent cells will come by a phenomenon called as differentiation. All the permanent cells, whatever they are present in the plant body, all the permanent cells are coming by an event called differentiation. I will write one sequence over here. If possible, write it in somewhere else in the safe place where you can see it constantly, because this sequence we will find in several places of discussion. Okay, first one, there is a concept is there. Don't ask me some of the words I will write exactly. Don't ask me what you are writing there. I will give you the explanation about the particular thing whenever it comes to us. But there is a way to write them. I will write that sequence, then we will discuss them later. First one, primary meristem. This is the one which begins the life of a plant. Life of a plant begins with embryo. Embryo contain radicle develop into root system, then plumule develop into shoot system. That radicle and plumule contain primary meristem. Okay, then meristem, as I said, it does not perform any function. It has to modify itself to become functional. The one we will call first one primary permanent cells. Primary permanent cells. The process of development of primary permanent cells from primary meristem, we call it as differentiation. Differentiation. Now tell me, if somebody asking you what type of cells in the plant body you will call differentiated cells, what they are? Differentiated. Differentiated cells means permanent cells. Permanent cells are the one which are becoming functional after a process called differentiation. Are you catching my statement? So, primary permanent cells, we call them as differentiated ones. Next, from the primary permanent cell, some of the plants, remember, almost 90% of the activities conducted by plants, they are depending on primary permanent cell, almost all. But only some cases, if a plant requires some additional mechanical support, that mechanical support would be given by secondary tissues. But apart from that, if a plant wanted to survive, primary permanent cells are enough. Then from the primary permanent cells, we can able to get another variety of meristem. That meristem is called secondary meristem. Who are secondary meristems? What are their story? I will discuss later on. Secondary meristem. The process of formation of secondary meristem, we call it as de-differentiation. De-differentiation. Look at this. Whatever the changes that you have made to convert a meristematic cell into permanent cell, so-called primary permanent cell, all those changes would be reverse. Are you getting the idea? That reversal of changes, we call it as de-differentiation. I have modified, but I don't want that modification. Come back to original. This phenomena is called as de-differentiation. The de-differentiated cells are called secondary meristematic cells. Secondary meristematic cells are a variety of de-differentiated cells. Well done. Next criteria, come back to secondary meristems are going to convert in the form of secondary permanent cells. Secondary permanent cells or secondary permanent tissue. The process of formation of this secondary permanent tissue, we can call it as redifferentiation. Redifferentiation. Now, these are the ways to modify one type of cell to another type of cell. That means there are some cells which can divide. We call them as meristematic cells. There are some cells which cannot divide. We call them as permanent cells. There are variety of permanent cells. Primary permanent cell, secondary permanent cell. There are variety of meristematic cells. Primary meristematic cells and secondary meristematic cells. Altogether, whenever we wanted to study about plant tissues, we must have this kind of clarity. If they are talking about meristem, generally they talk about primary meristem. Of course, secondary meristem and primary meristem are having some kind of similarities and little differences. But anyhow, when we talk about meristem, one type of features. When we talk about permanent cells, other type of features. First, I will discuss about meristematic tissue characters and then we will go to permanent. Meristematic tissue characters. Characters of meristematic tissue. Characters about meristematic tissues. characters about meristematic tissues. Or if you talk about a meristematic cell, what are the characters it possesses? If you remember, some of the characters that I have already mentioned when we were talking about regions of root, there was a concept, regions of root. There is a zone called meristematic zone. There I have mentioned the meristematic tissues are having the following character. But anyhow, one more time, let us recall characters of meristematic tissue. First one, outer to inner. Outermost, that means characters of a cell from outer to inner. In this first one, cell wall. Cell wall is primary cell wall made up of cellulose, only cellulose. Now I wanted to clarify one thing. Generally, when it comes to the concept of cell wall in plants, we believe cell wall of the plants made up of cellulose. Of course, it is correct, but not only cellulose. Along with the cellulose, pectin, suberin, lignin, cutin, etc. are going to be added depending upon the requirement of the tissue. But when you talk about meristematic tissues, they don't have all those things. The cells are having the cell wall that is purely made up of cellulose. Are you catching the idea? That is the intention to say the meristematic cells are having cellulosic cell wall. Only cellulose. Since only cellulose, cell wall is thin, elastic and gradually diminishes. What do you mean by that? Gradually diminishes. Catch this property. When we talk about meristematic cells, they don't have any work. That means if somebody is not having any work but they are present in the plant body, that would be a difficult for the plant. That's why one day or another the meristematic cell must be converted in the form of permanent cell by a process called differentiation. Keep it in mind. Conversion of meristematic to permanent. There is another event is also there. Secondary meristem may going to be converted in the form of secondary permanent cell by the process of redifferentiation. But I am not talking about all those things. Just whenever I talk about meristem permanent, I will discuss about primary meristem, primary permanent cells. I don't discuss about the remaining categories of modifications. Keep it in mind. So come back to the story. There is a meristem who do not have any function. They wanted to attain function by the process of differentiation. During the process of differentiation, this primary cell wall gradually diminishes. And also the cell wall, this one, what we talk about meristematic cell wall, it is very thin, made up of cellulose, and it is elastic in nature, which means if you make more water to enter inside the cell wall is going to get enlarged, and the cell also going to be swell up because of turgor pressure developed inside the cells. The cell wall is going to be enlarged. That's why it is thin, elastic, gradually diminishes. Next one, cell wall. Inside large nucleus and more quantity of cytoplasm. These words also you can write with a other kind of words. Conspicuous nucleus, the nucleus which is easily visible, conspicuous nucleus, and high quantity of cytoplasm is present. Why? The nucleus, which is supposed to be divided and converted into two parts, it must be large. And also the cytoplasm that is present in the meristematic tissues must be equal to 2 daughter cells. If cytoplasm is very limited, that it is become insufficient to 2 daughter cells, that will be a difficult procedure to divide. That's why the cytoplasm must be sufficient to 2 daughter cells. That's the reason why they have large quantity of cytoplasm. Next one, metabolically more active. Metabolically more active when compared to other cells. This cell, I mean meristematic cells, required more energy because cell division itself is an energy expensive process. That's why the cells need more energy in the form of ATP. That's why they are metabolically more active. High rate of glycolysis, high rate of mitochondria, and high number of all kinds of cell organelles are working together to make the cell to divide. Metabolism is high. Next one, vacuoles generally absent. Vacuoles generally absent. Careful this. Vacuoles are generally absent. Vacuoles are not present in our meristematic cells. The reason, if you develop a vacuole by a process called vacuolation, gradually vacuoles occupy most of the area of cytoplasm, so that cytoplasm division and remaining other things are going to become very difficult. That's the reason why we have a phenomena called, in the meristematic cells there is no concept of vacuoles. Vacuoles are generally absent. If vacuole should be present, then the vacuoles are going to be very minute. Now you may be getting doubt. You should get. If you don't get, I will make you to get it. Now listen the statement. If you are talking about a matured plant cell which has 90% of its cytoplasm is occupied by vacuole, but you said a matured permanent cell is coming from meristematic cell, but meristematic cells do not have vacuole. How? How a permanent cell is going to get a vacuole? A permanent cell will get vacuole with the help of a cell organelle called Golgi apparatus. Lysosomes, vacuoles, and other all single membranous cell organelles may develop either from endoplasmic reticulum or maybe from Golgi complex. Especially vacuoles, they are developed from Golgi complex. So, in case of our meristematic cells, vacuoles are absent. Next one, ergastic substances. What do you mean by ergastic substances? Non-living material. Ergastic substances. I will tell you some ergastic substances like resins, latex, etc., etc. They would be present in some kind of permanent cell for the sake of secretion or for the sake of storage. But you don't see ergastic substances that are stored in meristematic cell. Ergastic substances are absent. Next one. Another important thing, plastids are absent. Plastids are absent. If they are present, they may be present in the form of proplastids. Proplastids. Now, I wanted to say one thing. Don't believe plastids present just only in meristematic cells. Parenchymatous cells which are performing photosynthesis. It's not the condition. Plastids are various types are there. Some plastids responsible for coloring, some plastids responsible for food storage, various types of foods, and some plastids meant for the photosynthesis. But in this case, careful about this. When you talk about meristematic cells do not have plastids. Even the plastids are present, those plastids are present in the form of proplastids. Next one. Numerous plasmodesmatal connections. numerous plasmodesmatal connections between one cell to another cell. In the meristematic tissue, more quantity of plasmodesmatal connections, because plasmodesmata, a cytoplasmic bridge between one cell to another cell, we call it as plasmodesmata. The plasmodesmatal connection, be careful, I'm not saying cell wall connections are not plasmodesmata. Cell wall connection, plasmodesmata, two different words. Okay, if two cell walls are get connected and they have a hole which is connecting from one cell to another cell, we must call it as pit. I will talk about them in secondary tissues. But when it comes to plasmodesmata, between one cell to another cell, by through the holes present in the cell wall, the plasma membrane of two cells will be fused and form a bridge. That bridge we call it as plasmodesmata. Is it okay? Plasmodesma is cytoplasmic connection, not cell wall connections. See, why plasmodesmatal connections required? Plasmodesmatal connections required for sharing of nutrients. As I said, cell needed more energy in order to divide. If one cell has much more energy, that will be shared with neighboring cell with the help of this plasmodesmatal connections. These are the common characters that a meristematic tissue or the cells present in meristematic tissue are possessing. Next, what are the types of meristematic cells? Types. We divide meristematic cells based on various categories. First one, based on origin. Based on origin. Based on origin, meristematic tissues meristematic tissues based on origin are of two types. One is primary meristem. Next one, secondary meristems. Based on what, ma? Origin. Origin is the criteria to make them primary and secondary meristems. What does it mean by primary meristem? Primary meristem is the meristem. Its origin is from the embryonic stage onwards. Originated from embryo. They are coming from embryonic stage onwards, which means in the embryo, whatever the meristem that was present in the radicle and whatever the meristem that was present in the plumule, from that meristem onwards, this primary meristem has been originated. Primary meristem. The best examples of primary meristem: apical meristem. In apical meristem, we have shoot apical meristem, shoot apical or apical meristem. Next one, root apical meristem. Shoot apical meristem, SAM. Root apical meristem, RAM. These two are primary meristems. Next one, intercalary meristem. Intercalary meristem. I will explain where they are present in detail later on. Next one, intrafascicular cambium. Or you can say vesicular cambium. These are all are the primary meristem. Only three varieties. That's it. In the entire plant body, only three varieties of primary meristem: apical meristem, intercalary meristem, intrafascicular cambium. All are primary. All are primary. Three varieties. Next one, secondary meristems. Secondary meristems are not originated from. They are not originated from embryo. You can see here from where they have originated. The secondary meristem, this one, secondary meristems are coming from a process called as de-differentiation. If I wanted to define what is exactly secondary meristem, I can define like this. Secondary meristems are nothing but de-differentiated, what they are ma? De-differentiated permanent cells. Permanent cells. Be careful, they are meristems, but a meristem which is de-differentiated is called secondary meristem, or a permanent cell which is de-differentiated is called as secondary meristem. Is it okay? Then what are the secondary meristems present in the plant body? The secondary meristems are interfascicular cambium, next one, cork cambium. That's it. Who are these words? We will talk about them later, but anyhow, secondary meristems are de-differentiated permanent cells. They are coming by a process called de-differentiation from primary permanent cells. They are called as secondary meristem. Two types of secondary meristems we could see in the plant body, that is interfascicular cambium, cork cambium. When time come, I will discuss what is this interfascicular cambium, intrafascicular cambium, cork cambium, etc. Okay. Next one, when you are talking about them with related to primary meristem, you said plant growth is localized. Plant growth is localized. Why plant growth is localized? The reason, meristematic cells are not distributed in the plant body evenly throughout the plant. Meristematic cells are distributed in the plant body only in certain locations. Now, I wanted to discuss about what are the types of meristems based on their location. One more time. Careful. When we talk about meristems are not distributed all over the plant body evenly. They are present in the plant body here and there at certain locations. In that case, based on the location, based on what? Location. Based on the location, meristematic cells. The next criteria I am discussing, based on location. Based on location, meristematic tissues, if you consider, they will be apical meristem, apical meristem, or apical meristem. Next one, intercalary meristem, and the third one is called lateral meristem. Catch this. Apical meristem, where it is present. Apical meristem present. You said based on location. Where does apical meristem is present? Apical meristem present in tips of plant organ. Tips of plant organs. Okay. Intercalary meristem between two matured tissues. Matured tissues. Then where do you see lateral meristem? Lateral sides of organs. In this one thing. First of all, we talk about apical meristem. See, this is a stem and root connected part. I'll take like this. This is, consider here root shoot interface. This is root apical meristem. This one shoot apical meristem. Okay. Root apical meristem present at the root tip. Shoot apical meristem present at distant most region of stem. What do you mean by distant? I would have explained this one. When it comes to distant, proximal. Distant means distal region, proximal region. Distant means far away. You can see, if you are talking about this shoot apical meristem, root tip or distant most region of root apical meristem, and distant most distant portion, distant most region, it has shoot apical meristem. Anyhow, shoot apical meristem and root apical meristem responsible for increase in the length of the root and shoot. If shoot apical meristem, shoot length increases, root apical meristem, root length is going to increase. Anyhow, root length and shoot length is increased by apical meristem. Then what are the other parts you can see with the development of apical meristem? Especially I am talking about shoot apical meristem. Imagine this is shoot tip. This is a shoot tip. While shoot tip is growing, here it is, you will be considered as bud. What type of bud it is? Apical bud. Apical bud. I told you, what does it mean by bud? Bud means concised stem. Do you remember? In the bud, there is a region, call it as shoot apical meristem. Below the shoot apical meristem, for example, if there is a leaf developed here, do you remember where does leaf is going to develop? Leaf do not develop in the random places. Leaves are always developed at nodal portions of a stem. So at this area, there is some amount of meristem, shoot apical meristem is going to be occupied. That shoot apical meristem, we will call it as axillary bud. Axillary bud. Imagine, when we talk about axillary bud, which is present in the axil of the leaf, we discuss there are some kind of organs developed from axillary bud. Do you know what are those organs developed from axillary bud? Axillary bud develops if vegetative growth, a stem or a branch, in it reproductive growth, an axillary bud even can be able to develop in the form of flower. It can develop a flower or it can develop into a branch. Now one question arises, what is axillary bud? Axillary bud is nothing but, this is axillary bud is nothing but left behind shoot apical meristem. Some amount of shoot apical meristem left behind at the axil of leaf. That bud, I mean, it will develop into a bud. That bud we call it as axillary bud. Whenever we talk about axillary bud contain shoot apical meristem. Clear? Next one. This is about apical meristem. Then come to one word about apical meristem. Remember, whatever the organs that you would develop on the surface of the stem, all the organs developed by shoot apical meristem only. It may be reproductive parts, or it may be vegetative part, or any type of part that is developed from stem. All those parts are developed by shoot apical meristem. I will show you them later in our NCERT book with related to in the form of leaf primordium, shoot apical meristem, etc. parts are there. All those developed by shoot apical meristem. Then intercalary meristem. What is that, ma? Intercalary meristem. Imagine, intercalary meristem is not universally present in all the types of plants. Intercalary meristem especially present in case of some grasses. It's not universal. It is present in case of grasses at base of internode. What do you mean by that? Base of internode means what? Catch, this is a stem, this is a node, and this area I will call it as internode. Exactly at the base of the internode, that means here it's not present in the lateral sides. No, it is present only at the base of the internode. This is called it as intercalary meristem. Intercalary meristem. Intercalary meristem. What is the use of this intercalary meristem? I told you this is not universal, especially present in case of grasses. Intercalary meristem will help in vegetative propagation of grasses, especially when a grass has been grazed by any herbivorous animal. The broken parts of the stem regenerated with the help of our intercalary meristem. Is it clear? Are you following? Intercalary meristem, it is the one which is responsible for development of new organs from the damaged parts of the stem. Any reasons it has been damaged in the stem at the internodal base, if there is a presence of intercalary meristem, there is a regeneration of that stem. Clear? This is a kind of primary meristem or secondary meristem. Intercalary meristem belongs to primary meristem. Next one, lateral meristem. Who are lateral meristems and where they are present? If you take a trunk of a plant, which is nothing but stem of a plant, this is the one, and these are the nodal regions. Our lateral meristems present in lateral side, like this. Lateral. Let me take one thing. This is a stem and I will cut it transversely. Its appearance is different and I will cut it longitudinally. Lateral meristem appearance is different. First one, this is, imagine I have taken a plant and I made a cut longitudinally. Now I will making a cut transversely. In this case, take a stem and cut it transversely. This is the stem in which I made a transversive cut. In this, The lateral meristem will appear like this. All along the length it is traveling. The lateral meristem is going to appear like this inside the stem. Okay? That's why lateral meristems are also called cylindrical meristem. Lateral meristems are also called cylindrical meristems. What do you mean by cylindrical meristems? All along the length of the stem, this meristem is present as a cylinder. Are you catching the idea? If the same thing if I cut, it would be going to appear it is present at lateral side. Of course, it is present lateral side all around the stem internally. That's why it is called cylindrical meristem. What is the use of this lateral meristem? First of all, what are the types of lateral meristems are there? In this lateral meristem category, examples if you notify, you have interfascicular cambium, interfascicular cambium, and also intrafascicular cambium, and cork cambium. These are all are varieties of lateral meristem. They are present at the lateral side of the plant. Sometimes we also hear lateral meristems developed in the later stages of the plant growth. What do you mean by lateral stages? Because think about these two. In these two categories, this one, they too develop in the later stages. Because of they are developed in the later stages, that's why some people are confused. Lateral meristems are also called later meristems. That's not the thing. They are lateral meristem. Okay? Lateral. In this case, come to the concept. When it comes to origin, catch this idea. When it comes to origin, over there, in the origin wise, cork cambium is secondary. Interfascicular cambium is secondary. But intrafascicular cambium was primary. Do you remember that? Let me take one more here. When I was discussing about, okay, secondary meristem and primary meristem, you check here. I have notified intercalary meristem as primary. Intracalary meristem as primary. Intra. Here, careful, it is intra. And interfascicular cambium is secondary. This is primary, this is secondary, this is also secondary. But these two secondary will be present along with this primary in lateral positions. These two secondary meristems are present along with secondary meristem, present along with primary meristem in which position of the plant body? Lateral positions of plant body. That's why when it comes to secondary meristem, we need to talk about this. A note. All secondary meristems are lateral meristem. All secondary meristems are lateral. Who are all? Two only. Interfascicular cambium, cork cambium. These two. Next one. All secondary meristems are lateral. But all lateral meristems are not secondary. are not secondary. Notify that statement clearly. All secondary meristems are lateral. All means two. One is the one which is in the form of, okay, cork cambium, interfascicular cambium. Both are secondary. But there is another meristem which is present in the form of primary but lateral in position, that is intrafascicular cambium or fascicular vascular cambium. That's the reason why all secondary meristems are lateral, but all lateral meristems are not secondary. If they say secondary meristems are lateral meristems, correct? Are you getting the idea? Next one, lateral meristems are secondary. Here only the confusion will be generated, because lateral meristems may be secondary or primary due to the presence of intrafascicular cambium as a part of lateral meristem. So we could not say all lateral meristems are secondary, but secondary meristems are lateral. Are you catching the statement? Like this, there has been various types of meristems which are present in the form of primary, secondary, and also based on their location, they may be apical, they may be intercalary, they may be, lateral meristems. So when it comes to apical meristem, the meristems which are present at the tips of the plant organ, we call it as apical meristem. These apical meristems, shoot may be shoot apical meristem, root apical meristem. The shoot apical meristem present in the distant most regions of the shoot, and root apical meristem present in root tip. They have their respective work. Root apical meristem do not form, be careful, root apical meristem do not form buds. They do not form buds. Buds are a characteristic feature of stem. Shoot apical meristem form buds. Where they form buds, there are various locations they form buds. First one, axillary bud. Some amount of shoot apical meristem will be left over at the axillary portions of leaf. That axillary portion leaf contain the bud that is called axillary bud, which is a form of shoot apical meristem. Is it okay? Like this, we have divisions and their characters. One suggestion from my side related to anatomy. I have seen while class is going on, the students are feeling very comfortable. This, that they are answering. When exactly paper has come to their hand, they are getting confused. The reason, you need to study them regularly. I mean, when the class happened, you study some amount of introduction and also the related information what I am giving to you. And at the same time, try to write the notes. Do you understand or not? Whatever the statement that I am giving to you, everything I am writing on the board. It's better to write along with me in the form of a fresh notes. Is it okay? Are you getting the idea? So, write notes along with me. If you write the content along with me, that would be very useful when you have NCERT book along with you. You will have something that you have written to watch. So automatically you will feel very comfortable. See, 1.5 hours I have taken, I have written everything on the board neatly. You can check it over there, everything I have written. Keep everything on your notes so that later while you are recalling every statement, you will feel very comfortable because you have heard it, you have listened it, and you have written it with your own hands. Clear the statement? That's about today's class. Well done. Thank you. Close.
And history.